Franco, you say Canadians should be quite concerned because the PBO report says the government messaging about balancing the operating budget is not credible?
Well, look, Canadians got to be very concerned. So, for starters, the Parliamentary Budget Officer is the government's own nonpartisan, independent budget watchdog. And the PBO just released a bombshell, a scathing report slicing through Carney's budget creative accounting. So, first of all, it's always been a fake fiscal guardrail of balancing the operating budget, right? You're not balancing anything if you continue to borrow tens of billions of dollars every single year. But this PBO report, even makes people worried that Carney can't even balance the operating budget, right? If Carney wasn't expanding the definition of capital, he would be running a deficit in the operating budget of about $18 billion in 2028. So this is a very scathing report, and all Canadians should be very, very concerned about the state of our finances.
And what's interesting as well is the Carney government says they will, in fact, balance the operating budget by 2028, 2029, but that remains to be seen. Franco, the PBO report says the Liberals are using a definition of capital investment that expands beyond the current treatment in the public accounts and international practice. So in practical terms, can you explain really what that means?
Yeah, Carney and the government are essentially just including too much in capital spending, right? They're just adding too much into capital spending, watering down the traditional deficit or the traditional definition, of what it is capital spending. And some of those things include things like operating subsidies to businesses, right? Just pure corporate welfare. Well, corporate welfare, handing a business a bucket of taxpayer cash, that's not a capital spending for taxpayers. That's a cost to taxpayers. And the numbers in the PBO report are damning, right? Based on the traditional definition of capital spending, Carney's essentially increasing it by $94 billion.
Well, the Carney government plans to borrow, I think they said around $80 billion this year. So what does that mean for the average Canadian taxpayer, Franco?
Well, look, it's just more borrowing, more money wasted on debt interest charges, right? And think about it this way. So interest charges on the government debt are costing taxpayers more than $1 billion every week, right? That's enough money that could go to building a brand new hospital every single week. But that money is being wasted on interest charges, interest payments to the bond fund managers on Bay Street. Or think about it this way. The next time you're standing in that checkout line, every single dollar that you pay in federal sales tax is going to pay interest on the debt.
Franco Terrazzano, Federal Director of the Canadian Taxpayers Federation, thanks so much for joining us today from Ottawa.
Hey, thanks for having me on.